maybe for the two first ones, but I know
Alright.
look good.
The 31st.
No,
Well-
the 17th and 18th, or 18th and 19th, whatever.
So I'd like to welcome everybody to the first of the year meeting of the Metropolitan School District of North Posey, and ask everybody to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vision mission.
Yes.
Our vision is we inspire all students to achieve their potential for learning and life in a safe and supportive environment. Our mission is we partner with our community to create a dynamic and innovative educational experience, empowering students to become educated, productive, and responsible citizens. Our core beliefs: we believe our community is vital to our educational success. Everyone is valued and treated with respect, and always telling the truth. An educational opportunity for all. Student-centered programs, challenging and inspiring learning, and in the pursuit of excellence through a strong sense of pride. Our high priorities are enhancing the student experience, investing in teachers and administrators, fostering strong relationships among all, and maximizing resources.
All right. So the first item on the agenda is patron concerns. We'll note that we have none listed. And then the next one was going to be the oath of office, but we'll just make it noted that we did the oath of office for myself and Lindsay during or before executive session. And then the next one is Dr. Galvin.
At this time, I'm asking the board for consideration to reappoint Mr. Josh Orm as the school board attorney for 2023.
I will make a motion to reappoint Mr. Orm as school board attorney for 2023.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Oakley, second by Mr. Colley to reappoint Mr. Orm as school board attorney. Do I have any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. 5-0.
Congratulations, Mr.
We're
Orm.
doing it again.
At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Orm to carry out the reorganization of the school board for 2023.
All right, well, thank you, board, for the reappointment here as a school attorney, as a school board attorney. At this time, I would go ahead and open the floor for nominations for the office of president of the school board.
Okay, I will nominate Greg Schmidt to be school board president.
I'll second
All right, so we can show that Amy has appointed Greg, Larry has seconded. Any other nominations? All right, at the time, I'd see, is any discussion on the matter?
Will say that, in my opinion, anybody at this table would do a great job in that.
Mhm.
And making sure that the rest of the board is informed is probably the most important thing that the president does. So just want that noted.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion? All right, and with that, we'll proceed to a vote. Those in favor of Greg Schmidt serving as the North Posey School Board President, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Carries with a unanimous vote. Then at this time, I would open the floor for nominations for the, probably congratulations.
Probably.
Comes with the more bonus,
All right,
Pat on the
so
back. Pat on the back.
maybe condolences are in there.
Yeah.
All right. So at this time, I'd open the floor for nominations for the office of vice president of the school board.
Vince, are you okay with that?
I'll nominate Vince Oakley as vice president.
And do we
And
have,
I can second that.
all right. Any additional nominations? Any discussion? Okay, then at this time, I'll open the floor for a vote. Those in favor of Vince Oakley as serving as the vice president of the North Posey School Board, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. And the vote
Vince
carries.
actually voted for himself, so that's good.
Yeah.
I was seeing if you were gonna do that.
I haven't voted
Vince.
no on anything yet.
And the vote carries unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Oakley. All right, so now I'd open the floor for nominations for the office of Secretary of the School Board. Any nominations?
I don't care. That's
Okay.
fine.
I will nominate Mrs. Will.
All right. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Any additional nominations? Any discussion? This time I'll open for vote. Those in favor of Amy Will serving as the board secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Show a unanimous vote. Then at this time, I would open, this one I will not open for nomination, but we'll open and recommend that the board appoint a treasurer and deputy for, excuse me. This time I will open and ask that we appoint a treasurer and deputy for the school district. This is not necessarily a board member. We have a motion.
Yeah, I will make a motion to appoint Carol, I assume I'm putting names in there, okay,
Yeah.
as district treasurer and Amanda Lynn as the deputy treasurer.
All right, and do we have anyone to second?
I will second that.
Any discussion?
Who's Amanda Lynn?
She's our current deputy treasurer.
Looks at the front desk here.
Okay.
Recent.
When Jamie the position.
Oh, okay. She's just recently,
Right, Lori,
When Lori moved back on.
Yeah, Lori, sorry.
thought I recognized seeing the name, but I had no.
She graduated from North Posey.
With me, Amanda Staples.
Mhm.
Oh,
Does that help you?
oh, yeah, now I remember the whole thing. You gotta give me these little keys.
I got it, Larry, I got it.
All right, any further discussion on this matter here?
Yeah, I do want to point out that we accepted a letter of retirement from Carol, effective in June, I believe.
We haven't approved it yet, though.
Right, yeah.
Been
We
there
didn't
for-
We haven't done
Oh,
flag docket.
sorry, we haven't approved it yet. But that we do thank her for her many years of service to the corporation, and she's been a great asset, I'm sure, to Mr. Galvin, and
I'll say some things about her when we
Yep.
get to that in the agenda, because, but yeah, thank you, Greg, for saying that.
All right, do we have any further discussion on this appointment? All right, those in favor of appointing Carol Lufer as the district treasurer and Amanda Lynn as the district deputy treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We have a unanimous vote approving Carol Lufer as district treasurer and Amanda Lynn as deputy treasurer. And at this time, Mr. President, I'm going to return the meeting to you.
All right.
Good job, Jeff.
All right, so the next office that we need to accept nominations for is the Board of Finance. Previously, that was held by Jeff, and Larry was the treasurer. Looking for nominations for the Board of Finance president.
We do both together?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to appoint Larry president and Lindsay as treasurer of the Board of Finance.
Sounds
You
great.
get all of them ready?
So we have a motion by Mr. Oakley to approve Mr. Colley as the president of the Board of Finance and Ms. Bowers as the treasurer of the Board of Finance.
I'll
Need a
second.
Second from Mrs. Will. Do we have any other discussion on the matter? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. The next one is policy and legislative liaison. And previously policy was Ms. Will, and Mr. Oakley held the legislative. So looking for a motion to appoint.
So I'll make a motion that we let the two remain in that position.
In a
They're
second.
very good at it.
Thanks.
Since we just talked about how you didn't have a policy, right?
Mhm. A second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. All right, I'll hand it back over to Dr. Galvin then.
The board also needs to examine the compensation wages for the board. Usually, I think, if I remember correctly, I think state law says that the board receives a $2,000 annual stipend. I think that's the maximum. However, you have some leverage or decision over how much you get paid per meeting. Currently is $100 per meeting for 12 meetings for a maximum salary of $3,200 per member for a calendar year of service. So that is what it currently is.
I'll make a motion to retain the current compensation package.
I'll second it.
A motion by Mr. Oakley and seconded by Mr. Colley to retain the current compensation package. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
This time I'm gonna hand out the conflict of interest. I think Mr. Oakley, you've got one, and Mr. Colley, and then I have one as well. So just so everybody knows.
Can we just sign this, or
So,
did you sign it? I
on
want
the
a copy.
second page.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I put a little yellow thing. You can have any copy of nation.
I only have one conflict letter. I need more.
All right, next item on the agenda is the claim docket minutes and consent items. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items as presented. And claim, in the claim docket. In the claim docket too?
Yeah.
Yes, in the claim docket.
And a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ms. Will, seconded by Mr. Oakley to approve. Any other discussion on the matter?
I'd really like to pull out Mrs. Leeper's retirement and vote on it separately, but I guess that's probably not gonna make any difference.
No.
Well, and what about the issue we were talking about earlier? Is that's in here too, right?
Yeah. Page 2 of the claims, there is a bill from Concept Sound that, we had brought this up in the past. It's been an ongoing matter. It seems the work is now complete to
Yes.
spec, but.
And Jake Regan, our technology director, has inspected it as well. Yeah.
Did you want to speak to it first? Mary?
Well, basically what I mentioned earlier, I'm just not happy with the way and timely matter that he worked on it, and the fact that I thought when we met with him to redo it, I thought he was just trying his best to snow us into accepting what he already had there. And we were supposedly meeting to come to an agreement, some give and take, and we agreed to go with a slightly smaller picture than what the screen was. And my feeling was he was going to at least supply some of the work at a lesser cost or something anyway. And instead, the labor bill I thought was really, really huge.
In comparing the two bills, the first one, which seems to have a lot more work, had $1,200 in labor costs, which if it's the same rate would be just over 14 hours. And to move the speakers was 33 hours of labor, so over $2,800. And it does seem a little questionable on.
I think he used that meeting where we got together to decide that he's going to have another job and he's going to make money off of it. He's not going to try and keep a customer. He's gonna go on the other way. And I've made my views evident all along. I'm not happy with the softball sitting there for 6 months. I'm not happy with the basketball season being almost over and he not fixed that. And, at this point, I don't know what alternatives we have,
Well, per our policy, if it's under $25,000, it does not have to go out to bid. But could we put some of this stuff out to bid
Yeah,
and see what we get back?
Mhm.
That's a good idea.
The main issue you run into though is you're then looking at an architect having to write that bid up. So you're gonna be paying the
Is it-
architect fee.
You guys can't, or Jake can't come up with,
Jake possibly could, we just have to see, we have to
Check
talk
into
to
that
him and
maybe.
see, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
why
that's-
an architect?
right.
You just want to make sure that you have all the legal ramifications within that
Okay.
bid correct and stuff. So,
Okay.
so that's the only issue that you really run into when you start writing bids. And we've been talking about, like, for example, the bid with the gymnasium ceiling of, could we write that? Could we not write that? And those are some of the concerns we've just been discussing. So,
I'm not as concerned maybe that we actually put it out for bid, but I think we should check 2 or 3 sources to
Sure.
find out what they're going to charge. And then when we hire Oakley Electric to do
We don't
this,
want to hire
at
them.
least. Well, you aren't hiring Holly Electric, that's for sure.
and as the board directed, we've not done, we've stopped everything except for, we're waiting for the softball and we're waiting for the high school gymnasium. We've not done anything else with them until we get those projects done and taken care of and to our satisfaction. So like the board asked, we've not done any.
Are they
additional-
still doing it? Can we
Yes.
terminate them?
I mean, they've got the stuff there and everything. They've ordered the equipment and the softball thing was me. That's on me. He asked me, he said, can I get this just installed before softball season? I said, sure. Just whenever you get time, just come out and do it. So that's on me. I gave him that okay to do that. And I think the basketball, the gymnasium, we've just been waiting on parts is really what it is.
And he still doesn't have the parts.
But I think that's coming. So
Some of that's typical for the times we're in right now. And also, and I don't want to completely defend him here, but the labor rates on the second quote were much higher because the scaffolding had to be installed to install all this stuff. On the first quote, everything was done at floor level or with a ladder. So that was, and scaffolding is very labor intensive and expensive.
But still, probably the thing that tipped it more than anything, I was not pleased anyway, but when he put that display up for us, we asked him what it would look like with what he had there, he put something up that was just awful. It was bigger than the screen. It was there. You couldn't see what was on it and everything. He said, that's the best we can get. And immediately either Jake or Brian, one of the two, went up there and done a couple of adjustments, and it wasn't great, but it was good enough for a presentation or something like that. And he was, to me, he was just trying to get out of it. He would never do work for me. If we hire him, I will vote no every time.
They do think that there was no additional cost of the lens. I think you just switched that out.
That's right. I didn't see the lens listed.
So, because I think we did have to go with a different lens to fit the screen actually, so. But like I said, we've stopped any other work, and like Larry said, yeah, we're gonna try to look at some other people to see who else can do it.
Mhm. Any other discussion?
I will go back really quickly to Carol Lupfer. She has been with the district for 27 years, and I just want to say, as superintendent, in this situation, your treasurer is well worth their weight in gold, quite honestly, because you want someone who's going to be very detail oriented. I remember when I took this position, Todd said, Carol almost gets you the end of month reports the second day of the new month, and she pretty well holds to that. I mean, she does a very thorough job in everything that she does. When we go for budgets, and we work with, I can't think of Joan's name right now.
Armin.
Dr. Harmon. Dr. Harmon quite often says that, he really doesn't need to be here. Carol does such a thorough job. And she is just extremely knowledgeable. That's the biggest thing that I think all of us have been fearful of is that if I need something, she can rattle off the object code. She can rattle off what we've done in the past. I mean, it's all up here, and we're going to lose all that. And so she's, we're going to put together a transition. We'd like to try to get the assistant or whoever the new treasurer is going to be in to work with her before she exits and learn as much as they can from her. And so we're going to begin that process very quickly as we go through this. But
Would she be open to work as a consultant after she retires?
I think so. I think she will. So we've not talked to her about that yet, but I think some people that are interested in the position have talked to her, and she's willing to. If we call her and say, "Hey, Carol, can you explain this to us?" I think she would definitely be able to do that. So.
She doesn't live too far away.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't. But I want to thank her personally because, like I said, she is very professional. She does a great job. All these principals in here know that she definitely takes into heart what her responsibility is in this district. So, and we wish her the best.
I have a couple of other questions. There was a Bose McKinney law firm. Is that your firm?
No, that's John Mays who we're working with.
Oh, okay, that's
Yes.
who that is.
That's
Okay,
who
I
that is.
was wondering, I see all these lawyers and stuff, and I get nervous. Stephenoggle Group,
Yes.
how do we pay them? Did we not just pay them a regular fee?
No.
We
Remember,
pay them per
Per-
event that they work on.
Yes.
Okay, that's
That way-
the only thing I
yeah,
was
when we first met with them, they said that that's how they do it. That way, then they're not charging us for stuff that we're not doing with them. So,
Okay. I just saw that and I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the claim docket and consent items and minutes, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. New business.
next up this evening, we're going to kind of move the agenda around a little bit to help out Jerry McKibben, who's here this evening to give us an update on his demographic research that he did for our district. Jerry's got to get back up north, so we thought we'd be kind to him and let him get up there. So I'll tell you this, I learned a lot in talking to Jerry the few times we have, so I think this should be very interesting for you guys tonight.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate the moving the agenda. Now, when you see McKibben demographics next month on the account stuff, that's me. It's worth every dime. And go back. There's two things I want to go over first before I go into the thing. One, very important. These are forecasts. They are not projections. Two very, very different things. A projection is usually year-to-year survivorship, second to third, third to fourth over 4 or 5 year period of time, create an algorithm, and use that to literally project out into the future. Very quick, easy, simple, cheap. But, and until about 1995, that's all you had for school district research. The problem with them is they're almost never right. Because the only way a projection can be correct is if what's happened the last 4 or 5 years replicates itself over the next 5 or 10, which almost never happens. I don't know about you guys, but I hope we don't see the last 5 years again anytime in my life. But second, do not let this Rock Hill, South Carolina fool you. I was born and raised in Indiana, Fort Wayne area, went to Carroll High School. I was an Indiana State demographer for about 6 years back in the 80s and 90s. My doctoral dissertation was on Indiana demographics. I guarantee you'll hear any case of insomnia you ever had. We've done, 3,000 school districts around the country, about 150 in Indiana. Just finished up Your Good Neighbors up at Southwest Du Bois last month. So I have lived, breathed, eat Indiana demographics for 35 years now. So that's why I don't have that accent either. Now, anytime you're doing a forecast, you must have assumptions, okay? And we call them, the next slide, please. List of your forecast assumptions. These are broad socioeconomic and demographic parameters that we use to build the models. This is a two-step procedure in forecast. First thing we do is a full population forecast for each one of your 2 attendance areas. Male, female, 0 to 4 to 85 plus, your entire population. Build fertility, mortality, and migration models specific to the area, okay? Get all the local data we can lay our hands on, from the census, county, city, the district, whatever it is. It's built specific. The models for North Posey wouldn't work anywhere in Vanderburg, wouldn't work anywhere up in Gibson. They're your models, okay? Now, if the assumptions are not violated, we should stay within 2% of our forecast total for the district for the life of the 10-year life of the forecast. Think of it as a confidence interval, if you like. Now, I don't want to go through all of them, but I want to go through the big 4. These are the 4 variables that has the highest probability of variation. And the first one, of course, is B. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate stays below, or in this case, stays between 5 and 7%. Why is it so important? Drives your housing market, all right? And a lot of fluctuation there. This morning, according to Bloomberg, the 30-year fixed rate was 6.6% in the United States, down a little bit from 7.2 in November. It was 3.3 a year ago. It has never happened before in U.S. history where the 30-year fixed rate's doubled in 1 year, okay? Now, to those of us who are old enough to remember the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, when the 30-year fixed rate was 7, 9, 11, 12%, 6.6 still sounds pretty good, right? I bought my first house in 94 and we got 5 or 7.5. I thought we were robbing the bank, okay? Kids today, and they've been the age of 40, have seen nothing but 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5 for the last 12 years. 6.5 sounds like highway robbery. It was a great piece also on CNBC just a couple weeks ago. If you bought a $400,000 house a year ago, or bought the same house today, you pay $800 a month more in mortgage payment just on the higher interest rates. That's why the housing market's slowing down so much right now. The second one, and because we're in the state of Indiana, Indiana is the only state in the country that has charters, vouchers, and interdistrict transfers going on at the same time. It's chaos in this state, okay?
Can you go up to the state on the State House Day and say that to them?
I have been saying that to anybody who's been listening for the last 10 years. It was the most asinine law they ever posted. Don't get me going on that. I'll be here all night. And I was told there's a football game of some importance this evening. I don't want to hold you guys away from it. But you can't look at Indiana school district enrollment and not consider transfers, okay? We did Carmel, Noblesville, Hamilton Southeast, Westfield, Washington, all the big Hamilton County schools. And they were all shocked to find out that their transfer numbers are negative. They're like 400, 600, 800, 900 negative transfers because they're closed districts. They don't let anybody in. They still have transfers out. So the biggest out transfers. Now, North Posey is actually kind of unique. Your public transfer number is positive by about 40 or 50. But your total transfer number is negative because that takes in the private ones going to private schools and the charters. So the net for the district is negative 100. We hold that constant for the life of the forecast because there's so much fluctuation in there. What we're trying to do is isolate the demographic factors. Now, if you have next year, you get more kids come in or fewer going out, or the case may be, you need to add or subtract that from the forecast results. But we look at that, we're going to hold it constant at, in non-COVID years, pretty much has been roughly about negative 100, okay? If a charter school closes, and there are a lot more closing in this country, it have a positive impact on your enrollment. Next slide, the other two, and they're back to back, I think here. Yes, 20 new single-family housing units constructed per year and 80 existing home sales. And beginning you have 100. And this is the point I think most people don't understand about their local demographic dynamics housing market. Everybody talks about all new home construction coming in. That's rounding error. 90% of the housing market in this country, 80% in the district, is existing home sales. That's a whole different dynamic, okay? And most existing home sales are people over the age of 60. They're now baby boomers downsizing, okay? So you get two kinds of elderly migration. You've got what we call the young elderly, which are below 70. It's voluntary, usually still both the spouses are alive, relatively good health. These are the ones you hear about. They sold the house and moved to Florida or the Ozarks or Texas, someplace like that. Very visual, but only about 15% of the downsizers. Most downsizing doesn't occur until it's in their 70s. We call it involuntary migration. And it's caused by either the death of one of the spouses or they both lose the ability to drive. And there's one thing about North Posey School District, you got to have a car to live out here, okay? So if that happens, then they have to sell, okay? Downsize, go to the kids, assisted living, retirement community, somewhere, okay? And that turns out to be a very, very, very key dynamic in your school district. Next slide. Now, what we do here is two things with population pyramids. I have one for 2010 and one for 2020. And this is a graphic representation of your population. Very easy to read. 0 to 4, that's your preschool. 5 to 9 is elementary, middle school, high school. 20 to 34, am I doing that or you? Sorry about that. Why did I know? I'd be throwing the bus on that one. So 20 to 34 we call family formation ages. 80% of all births occurred between the ages of 20 and 34 years old. The median age of first birth in the U.S. is 28 years old now. Okay. You can have a total fertility rate of 9. And after listening to you guys, I think you might, but if you don't have women in prime childbearing age, you're not going to have any kids, okay? Despite what you've read in the popular press, fertility rates in this country have not moved that much in the last 50 years. They've stayed in a nice tight 15% band between 1.6 and 2.0 children per woman in her lifetime. It's bounced around for 50 years now. But when you see changes in the number of births in the area, it's not due to change in the birth rate, it's due to change in the number of women childbearing age. If you're wondering what a 0.6 kid looks like, go over to Ohio State. They have a lot of those. Come on, I could have said Purdue.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. 35 to 54 are the ages where most people have kids in school. Okay, there are exceptions to that. I was one of them. I was a first-time father at 40. So when my son graduated high school, I was 58, and everybody told me what a nice, well-behaved grandson I had. So, now, here's where it gets interesting. 55 to 69 referred to as the empty nest households. Get the Smith family down the street, been living there for the last 25 years. But 10 years ago, there was mom, dad, and 2 kids on average. Today, just mom and dad. Same owner, same housing unit, same family, but the household size went from 4 to 2, okay? And that's the bulk of your out-migration flow. You don't see the out-migration flow because the family is still there, but the household size has shrunk, okay? And then 70 and over, we're called the turnover ages. So how your population is distributed across the life course dictates what your future is going to look like. Now, this is still 2010, right? You can tell from there what's going to happen. Over the last 10 years, your big, fastest growing housing group's been empty nesters, okay? See this deficit down here, the 0 to 4, okay? If no one had moved into the district between 2010, 2015, just left your own demographic devices, your elementary enrollment would have dropped by about 70 kids. Not because of people fleeing or anything like that and wanting to live here, it's just smaller cohorts coming in. This is very common in suburban areas. So you need probably about 20, 25 kids to move in every year just to break even. That's why sometimes what looks like growth doesn't transpire into growth when you look at your enrollment. Now, if you go to 2020, this is from the new 2020 census numbers, what's happened? Well, everybody got 10 years older, okay? Much more of a pillar, but that large bubble of population is now entering the turnover ages, and particularly after 2025, that's going to be the main driver of change. You're going to have a growing number of households, housing units, turn over. Mostly two persons, retiree households moving out, new households with kids moving in. And that's why you start seeing that increase in enrollment after 2025, okay? You still have a deficit, still have relatively few number of people in their 20s and childbearing ages, but that's going to change as you go through the decade, okay? The front end of the baby boom this year is 76. The peak is 66. The back end of it's 58. Do the math. 10 years from now, it's 80, 70, and 60s. They're going to have to turn over, and you guys are on the front end of that baby boom distribution. So you go forward 10 years, this group is now in their late 70s. So that number of households, housing units in turnover ages is going to do nothing but go up for the next 10 years. So, and they'll probably sell them. The problem right now is during COVID, elderly mobility just rolled off the table. They just stopped moving. And why would you move during a pandemic? Why leave your friends, family, healthcare providers, doctors, and all that in the middle of the pandemic? That's one reason why there's a shortage of homes on the market the last 3 years, because that's where most of the housing market comes from, is elderly downsizing. It should be going up right now with the baby boom, but COVID just stopped it. They're going to start coming back on the market. The problem now is the prices have gone up so much. Yeah, you can sell your house now and get a ton of equity. You'll put all of that plus back in where you're moving to. So I'm starting to see some equilibrium later this year, maybe in 24, when the recession hits. We'll start seeing some more equilibrium in the housing market. So the next slide, some of the tables for population change. Now, the district actually slightly lost population the last 10 years, and we'll do it again with large cohorts going out, but it's a much slower rate. It's only 3.9% for the district. Your household characteristics, only about a third of your households have under 18 population. That's actually very close to state and national averages. There's not a school district in this country where households with school-aged kids make up a majority. The last two were in Utah about now 15, 17 years ago. And, so 33 is about the average. 2.58 average household size. It's dropped. It dropped all over the country the last 10 years. It's my favorite stat from the 2020 census. Country grew at 7.4% the last 10 years. Second slowest growth rate in our U.S. history. Only the 1930s was slower at 7.3. But that's still 22 million people more than it was in 2010. But the under 18 population dropped by 1 million. Why? Births been dropping in this country for the last 15 years. And that's what happens. And also they shut off foreign immigration. So next slide. Homeowners 41%, almost 42 in that 35-54 range. That's dropped. That's gone up. That's closer to 26% now in the 2020 census. Overwhelmingly home ownership. Very, very few rental properties out here. So that tends to be an older population that have completed their family formation, because you don't come out of college and buy a house. You come out of college and rent an apartment. Around here, it's in Evansville. Then you move out to suburban areas. And then the single person households, that's still about 21%. That's up to about 10% now, as having more and more elderly dying off, people in what we call prime dying age. I used to call prime dying age even over the age of 65, but now that I'm 68, it's anybody over the age of 80. So, next slide.
Prime dying.
Yeah, prime dying. I gotta find a better term for that. We're working on it. Now we go up to the next one. That's boring. Okay. This is individual year of age. This is from 2010 census, but illustrates a very important thing here is one variable does not a trend make. In 2010, your 5-year-olds are kindergarten, first grade, second, third, fourth, fifth. Go forward 5 years, 2015, these under 1 are now 5 years old. That's your kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You can track these sizes. So people will go, oh, we've got this big cohort coming in, or a small cohort, or whatever the case may be. It's growth, it's decline. My first thing is maybe it's a different cohort size. Like take North here, for example, 57, 36, back up to 47, up to 64. You get a lot of variability in there. So you can't just look at this number and say, oh, it's growth or decline. There's always, 6, 8, 10 other variables at work in there, and just don't get excited. So we kind of look at these going, well, that's what you should be doing this year for this area. One teens drops down to the 80s, goes back up to teens. Okay. There's a natural curve in there. So you don't want to overreact to it. Next slide. Okay. All this data goes into the population forecast. Okay. Now there's two ways to read this. You can look at a cohort over time. 5 to 9 is your elementary. 550, 540, 530, 500, 480. Or follow a cohort over time. 0 to 4 here is now 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15, 19, 20, 24. Track either one. You see the drop from 2010 to 2020. Median age, that's the point where half your population is older, half is younger. 42.9 from this census. But that stops that increase. Most school districts in the state are going to see a dramatic rise. You're going to see turnover with older households, smaller ones going out, and newer, younger, bigger households coming in, particularly after 2025. Births drop down, not because of a drop in the fertility rate, but due to a drop of women in prime childbearing age. Deaths go up, not because of COVID, but because of people in prime dying age. So I guess I shouldn't look at you when I say that.
They all are every time you say that.
Yeah. I'm never gonna get that invoice through, am I? We do take canned goods though. All of that drives the enrollment forecast. We take the changes in the population forecast and then drive the enrollment forecast. Now, one of the important analogies here that I use is a bucket of water. Okay, if I have a bucket of water and I'm pouring water in the top and there's a hole in the bottom, as long as I'm pouring in faster, it's going out, the bottom level will rise. But, however, if the hole in the bottom gets bigger and it's now going out faster than I'm pouring in, even if I keep pouring in at the same rate, it's going to drop. And enrollment works the same way. What's the size of the 12th grade cohorts going out versus the size of the K and 1s coming in? Okay, that's fundamentally the difference here. So if you look at like this last year, down 33, you'll notice that you had one of your largest 12th grade classes ever graduating out. So again, you don't want to over generalize that phenomenon. Oh, it's COVID or something like that. Well, no, you're probably going to anyway because of a large cohort, which is another reason why you go back up next year, you only got 93 going out. Your K and 1 enrollments stay pretty constant. Start trickling up after 26 and 27. This is predicated on the assumption that the housing market stays healthy. The mortgage rates don't go above 7%. The young people aren't loaded up with debt. The elderly can sell their homes, and the new young people can move in. Okay? As long as that happens, you're going to see this slight increase in your K and 1. So the increases you see are going to be first seen in the elementary grades, because people move in, they got preschoolers, young kids. People with middle school and high school don't move that often. Pretty rare to see it happen. And then I'll kind of go through the whole process here. So the overall enrollment, that 1344 there, that's kind of the low point, okay, trickling down, not that much change, the 50 students, but then it starts trickling up. And one of the big reasons is you've got some pretty large 12th grade classes going out, particularly here in 2027, 120, and then the big one, 2029, 132. And you can see those oversized cohorts going through the system all the way back here. So those are the years where you're going to see the next year relatively large drops in total enrollment because you just have a lot more kids going out. If they weren't there, you probably start seeing the increase in overall enrollment probably by 26 or 27. If we carried these out about 5 more years, this would probably start crawling up back towards 1380, 1390, maybe 1400, depending on how the housing market goes. It's a little fuzzy after 10 years here. The middle school stays pretty constant, except for years you have large cohorts going out, but that stabilizes also. And then the high school is completely dependent upon incoming and outgoing because you don't have that much mobility in high school. In fact, most of that's in transfers going out now. High school students actually have a higher transfer rate than middle and elementary schools than you have in Indiana. And there's a host of reasons for that. Program availability, AP classes, whatever the service might be, both directions. Interestingly, one phenomenon from Indiana is something we call the large high school effect. Once your high school gets above 2,500 kids, you start seeing large transfer rates going out. And, you look at some of the leading high schools in the state, Hamilton Southeast, Noblesville, Northwest Allen, Westfield, Washington, all have negative transfer rates in their high school students because they're so big, kids can't get into sports teams, can't get into clubs, can't do any activities. So places like, Churubusco, Mount Vernon, Hamilton Heights are living and dying off of 150 kids they get out of those big ones every year. It's keeping those districts afloat. So that's why you're seeing some of these smaller districts not squawk about that. Problem here is you're next to your big urban area is a county-wide district. The only county-wide urban district in the state, Vanderbilt. They've got to come a long way out to get to a smaller high school. So only Warwick County has really seen any kind of benefit from the big high school effect down here. So that's kind of a uniqueness of this area of the state. I guess you could count Terre Haute as a county level big city, but it's not near the size of some of the other big cities up north. I did that in 24 minutes. That's a record for me. Questions? I guess we should go back to the district total, probably a good place to be.
Sure.
Question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was just curious, what is the average age now for males and females? I know there's disparity there. But in the United States, what's the average age for male, average age for a female?
You mean life expectancy?
Yeah, life expectancy.
Post-COVID, males are down to about 71 and a half now, and females are probably running about 77. We still haven't gotten really, really good data out of CDC on that, because they just now started coming out. What was it? 75% of all COVID deaths occurred to people over the age of 62. So that's really been a big factor on that. And the group that had the highest COVID mortality was white males over the age of 85. So those are really, and that, and the opioid epidemic has really wreaked havoc on male life expectancy. It's dropped like for the last 6 years, which is unprecedented in our history. So it's really flux times on that. I remember when it used to be 72 and a half, and my dad turned 72 that year, and he asked if he was going to die. I said, no, it doesn't work that way, Dad. So you have a life expectancy for every year you're at. So like 67, almost 68. According to the table, I'm supposed to live another 13 years. If you're 100 years old, your life expectancy is like 0.6 or something. Getting kind of close to the edge at that point.
Prime dining.
I'm fun at cocktail parties too.
It's all very interesting.
Take heart. In Indiana, about 75.
That part, this part.
I can't say anything now, can I? So 75% of school districts in this state will lose enrollment in the next 10 years. Okay. Probably about 70% around the country. Okay. And the big reason is you got big cohorts going out, small cohorts going in. Again, that's from 15 years of dropping births. And then we had huge drop in births during COVID. Everybody was, we had 400,000 more deaths in 20 and 21. And we got the numbers, and then was shocked that births in the U.S. went down 210,000. Indiana, about the same percentage. Now it's bounced back this year. So if you do a 3-year, 4-year running average, it's the same trend line. It was a little delayed childbearing on that one. But most school districts, and I think we have it in your forecast here, 26 and 27, you're just going to have some small cohorts coming in because there's small births that year, no matter where you're at. So it'll bounce back the next year. So again, that's that cohort size. You don't want to overgeneralize that. So, but we already know that one's coming.
Any questions?
Other questions? I couldn't have explained it that clearly.
Okay.
It's a lot of information.
It is.
If you've got any questions for me as you look through this and stuff, we can email Jerry those questions and things like that.
Yeah, you can do that definitely.
And we talked a little bit just a few days ago when we were kind of going over this. I think we usually take, would you say, Jerry, about 3 years, 3 or 4 years out, we kind of take a look back and see,
Right.
Are these still holding true? Did some things change? Those kinds of things, and we can re-alter this.
I will contact you next September for the next, we do evaluations of all our forecasts. And you send me your fall ADM numbers, and we'll put them up there and see how we're doing. And, the big thing we're going to look at is what your housing sales were this April to August. So, and if it was around 80, then we should be in good shape. If it's 60, I should be too high. A lot of that's going to depend on what the 30-year fixed rate, because Jerome Powell's giving me no indication of taking his foot off the gas on that one. He may not be doing 3/4 points. He's still going to do half points. And there's one observation from someone earlier this week. They said peaking inflation is not the same as declining inflation. So don't read too much into that. So, anything for that?
Copies of this?
It was in your forecast.
It's in here?
No, it was in the electronic.
In the
one.
email.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, I only have one more thing to add. I have to do this. My son graduated from the University of Georgia Law School in last May, passed the bar. So there's a football game tonight. I gotta go Dogs. You know, I paid all that money to that school. I'm a good football team, so. I don't know if it'll be by 13.5 points, but as long as they win, so. So,
Thank
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other
Very
questions,
much.
don't hesitate to give me a call or an email. And again, thank you for changing the agenda for me.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip.
Yeah.
So you can fill this out.
You ready, Mr. President?
Yep.
Okay, returning back to the agenda for this evening's meeting. First up this evening, I'm going to, we can take these separate or we can take these together. BSN Sports, we have a quote for a new soccer board as well as a new softball scoreboard. And both these situations, the soccer scoreboard, I think, went down actually during the season. And we contacted Nevco, and Nevco more or less just said that
They don't make parts anymore from what we have. I mean, it's outdated.
it's outdated. Softball,
Softball went out a lot. Mr. Fisher did a good job getting to work for the regional game, but it was pretty comical watching him work for that, so.
we have given Mr. Fisher a new name, MacGyver. He has a little pocket knife, and he's able to do a lot of things with that pocket knife.
Little tinfoil.
Yeah, a little tinfoil, and hold it just right, and stand on one foot, and those kinds of things. But we've gotten prices for these two. This will be paid from the operations fund. This will be through BSN. And one of the things, actually some other stuff that we have coming through BSN, do you want to talk a little bit about our agreement with them as far as what you?
Our agreement with BSN, one, it's not a contract, which is great, so we can opt out at any point, but it's basically just a give back type deal. You know, the more money we spend with BSN, the more we get back, which was a little bit different than our previous agreement. What BSN did on this specific quote, typically, depending on what we're buying, uniforms, balls, equipment, we get anywhere between 10 and 15% back on what we purchased. What they did with this is they try to get the price up front as low as possible, and then at the end of this, they'll kick back 2.5% of what the total cost was. So we kind of worked with them to, let's get the cost down as much as possible, and then we'll get a kickback at the end of what we get is we get every June 30th, we'll get kickback from BSN on our total sales for the year.
Are these installed or?
These are installed, yes.
They're
And that
installed.
with the softball scoreboard, it's gonna be a little bit bigger scoreboard, so they're gonna install a third beam on that, and that is included in the price.
And our big goal, especially on the softball one, was to get it installed prior to season starting. So that's kind of what we brought tonight.
The softball one wasn't a headache last year. It made it about 3 innings every game, and then it would start flickering, and we'd have to reset it, put fans on the controls.
Yeah, during the regional, I had air
Yeah,
conditioning,
air
little air
conditioners
conditioner
and,
sitting on.
all kinds of good stuff, but, yeah, it's seen it better days.
Okay, Mr. President, we bring that forward for consideration.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the proposals from BSN for the soccer and softball scoreboards.
I make a motion that we accept the proposal for the soccer and softball scoreboards from BSN.
A second?
Okay.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Colley, seconded by Mrs. Will. Do we have any other discussion on the item? Hearing none.
We'll also say that we did get pricing from Nevco, and it was considerable higher than this. So
Okay.
that's why we brought this one forward.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
I was reading the next one. I was going. Okay. Next up this evening, I'm going to turn this back over to Waylon, but this is for the extension of the softball backstop to provide more safety to the bleachers. This is also just to let you know a little bit about this quote. This came from Tri-State Fencing. We also use Mr. Fence as well, but Mr. Fence does not have the equipment to go up that high. So that's why we brought just the Tri-State Fencing this evening. This quote, as you can see, was dated back in August. We tried to get a most up-to-date quote, but we weren't able to get that from him for this meeting. But it's pretty close to the cost that we're going to be having with that, unless there's been a little bit more in cost of materials and stuff as we move to the new year. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, what that is, just gonna extend the backstop. Those of you out softball field, if you sit on the top two rows, on either side, home or away side, any foul ball, you're at eye level with
Line drive.
line drives, and we have had, members of our crowd get hit. Luckily, I don't think we've seen any lawsuits, but I went through a athletic director, sports law, class last year at one of our conferences, and we're not in good shape when it comes to compliance with that. So I mean, this is something that's a safety thing for our fans.
How high does it go? Do you know how?
It doubles what it is now. So it will be plenty high enough to where people are not.
They're doing it everywhere. Major
Yeah,
leagues have
everybody's
increased
doing it.
that, and it's.
Yeah, it's on that slide.
Yeah, there's your.
Oh.
It's not all going to be replaced. We're going to tie into the existing.
Yeah.
So we bring that forward for your consideration tonight, Mr. President.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the quote for the new softball backstop.
Do we need to adjust this motion since this quote is only good until?
Yeah, you may want to give me some wiggle room in case we go a little bit over that quote.
5% or?
Yeah, that should be fine.
I'll make a motion to approve the softball backstop extension at a cost of $14,418 plus up to 5%.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Oakley, second by Mrs. Bowers. Do we have any other discussion on the item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0.
Next up, we have this evening, we have for consideration the proposal for the additional playground equipment at North Elementary School. Last year, we were able to apply for a grant that allowed us to purchase the large structure. We got the K1 and 2 playground done, all except the basketball court, which we have pricing on that to get that done, but we didn't put that into this at this time. And then we got the third and fourth grade playground structure with that grant last year. So it has been sitting down here in the bus lot. So what we are proposing this year is to get that installed as well as put in some new swings. I believe the swing set over there is currently broke as well. So that's kind of, once again, taking care of a safety issue that we've had. And also it's going to put in some curb and those types of things, installation of the equipment. Last year, one of the things we did find out was the cost that they were charging, or the price that they were charging for our mulch was ridiculous. So we went to our provider and got it at a much cheaper price. So that is not on here, the cost of mulch and stuff. So we'll take care of that through our other vendor and things. So we're bringing forward that, and this is part of the new GO bond, the general obligation bond, that we're recommending this evening for that.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the proposals on the additional playground equipment.
I'll make a motion to approve proposal for additional playground equipment.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mrs. Will, seconded by Mr. Colley. Any other discussion on the item?
I did talk to Mrs. McMahon earlier today. I was asking about that basketball court. I know we had a private donation to go toward that basketball court. Do we have any kind of timeline of knowing when we're going to complete?
I'd like to, if I can right now, everything is costing more than what I expect it to cost. So if we get into this and we can get some savings in some different places, I'd like to try to get it done this summer. If not, it would be in the new budget of 2024.
Okay, my other concern was making sure that if we're jumping over there, that
Right.
we're not gonna have to tear
Tear
something up
something
to
up,
go
yeah.
back and.
And I don't think we will, but we will make a check to make sure that we can get the equipment in there. I'll get a hold of Chad and have him come out and take a look at that to make sure.
I have something too, so not specifically about the playground, but the whole 2022 general obligation bond. So I know we came up with kind of a list of things that we want to do, but I feel like this is the maybe second or third. Like I feel like the last meeting we might have had some stuff we approved for the general obligation bond plus this one. This may be asking way too much,
Sure.
but I personally would like to see money for all those things before I approve any more things for the general obligation
Gotcha.
bond,
Okay.
to know that we're gonna cover what we wanna cover first and not just keep
Right.
piecemealing it out.
Right. I've got an Excel spreadsheet, so I'll
Okay.
send that to you guys.
Awesome.
So, yeah. And actually, I spent more than what we have in the.
I'm sure we did, no
So-
doubt, but that will help me
That'll help you,
prioritize
yeah.
on what we're gonna do
Yeah.
towards it and not.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So I will get back to you with the question on, can we get that concrete truck and stuff back there? So I'll get back to you on that.
Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
All right.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0.
Okay, coming up next is the, let's kind of go into the next page, I find the page here. The bleachers at the high school, this is for the lower north post, or the main gym for the lower bleacher sections at the high school. We had two proposals on this, one from Lee Company and one from BSN Sports. We put both those in your packet, so that you can see both of those. There's about $1 difference between, or not dollar, my fault, about $1,000 difference. Yeah, actually about 500 or so difference between those two. But as Waylon suggested earlier, we are recommending BSN Sports because of the give back that they do. But that is up to the board if they want to go with Lee. Do you want to talk a little bit about too? I think you got some information too about the different.
Yeah, there is a 5-year partial labor warranty on both the scoreboards and the bleachers. I will say, from my experience with BSN and the league group, my day-to-day interactions, I speak to our sales rep with BSN probably 3 times a week. And this is nothing against the league group, but I've not seen a rep from the league group, me personally. So I feel a lot more comfortable working with somebody who's in and out of our building weekly. I pick up the phone right now, you would answer the phone. So, that's kind of where I'm at from the person that is dealing with that stuff from the athletic and day-to-day is I just feel more comfortable going with BSN with the service that I'm getting from them.
This does not include the scores table in it. Is that
No,
right?
this allows
Does it-
us to get that.
Is it set up so that the scores table will fit where it's supposed to
And
be?
that
not
that
where-
was my fear. If we try to improve the scores table and the bleachers at the same time, I would like to see the bleachers in and then say, okay, this is what we have room for.
They
I feel pretty good about it on paper, but
need to make sure that we're able to put the scoreboard where it needs to be. That's.
these are all ADA compliance, both bleachers the same size for both groups. This allows us to get the stairway out of the mid-court line. It will extend from, when we did the project a couple years back and we moved the entry to the locker room where the girls basketball, volleyball, currently, we will extend these bleachers, extend all the way down to that door, add some more seating down at the lower level as well.
On the ADA compliance, we really don't have much at all right now in the way of ADA.
We do not. This setup had 10 different seats for, is what they put in.
I'll be honest with you, this is a pretty tough sell for me. We've spent a lot on bleachers, and I feel like what we've done has not been great workmanship. We have broken things on football
Yes.
bleachers. Some of our handrails in the upper part of the basketball gym are broken right now. Why should we do this instead of fixing what we?
What I would say from my experiences, we've never put in new bleachers since I've been here.
True.
We didn't do the football stadium. We put a painted coat on the old
That's
stuff
true.
and didn't put a new set in. And then from the basketball ones, I mean, it shouldn't take 30 minutes to pull the bleachers out. I mean, the bolts in the bottom, the brackets are bent and broke. And I honestly think, I was not here when this happened, but when they put the red caps on top, I think that did some major damage to what happened underneath, because they're not made to have those caps. And it put, I think, a lot of stress on the motors and the different brackets because they get stuck, and it's caused a ton of problems. There's a lot of electrical problems in there as well. That we had LK come out and look at, and we were not in good shape from there.
I did have somebody reach out and say, please tell me these aren't what Mount Vernon has, because those are terrible. So,
No, I don't think they are. I mean, I did do some research.
Mount Vernon just
Yeah.
put seats on top of their.
I guess
so.
hard valve.
And you know,
Same thing.
I agree with Vince, and I think we spent a lot of money putting Band-Aids over some major problems, and in the long run, I think it's costing us more.
One of my biggest concerns with the bleachers, if you're 70 years old and you set up towards the top of the bleachers, you better be really, really careful as you walk down those steps, because they're different lengths, they're
Yeah.
different heights.
those little half steps are
Yeah, and
extremely
if you
awkward.
wear a size 13, it does not make it easier.
Unfortunately, I think that's ADA.
That's what I was wondering, is that a have to, because I thought I noticed that on this intermediate step, so there's no.
Yeah, they had to do that when they redid the football stadium.
The other thing
And
I
it's
also,
awful. It's very awful.
the other thing I wanted to also let you guys know is we've checked with Brad Wallace as well as Danny. I'm gonna leave this as part of the bid, but we are really discussing doing the demo ourselves. Brad thinks that he can use all the wooden pieces off the bleachers within his construction class. And so that 15,000 there that's on the demo, we're hoping that we can save that money by doing it ourselves. I talked to Danny about it, and he felt like that he could do it, and Brad has agreed to take that wood and stuff. So it's kind of recycling the project more or less. So. And this is coming out of geo.
I saw that.
And then you still get
A lot of money
2% back
going on
on
the
it.
other one.
Right.
Yeah, we get that percentage back on this too then, right?
It's doing it.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the quote from DSN.
I make a motion, we accept BSN's quote for bleachers.
Second,
Reluctantly, I'll second. Waylon, you're a good salesman.
we have a motion by Mr. Colley, second by Mr. Oakley, to approve the quote from DSN Sports. Any other discussion on the item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Stay in the schools.
State of the schools. So I think I've shared this with you before. Underneath state law, we are required annually, usually in the January board meeting, to kind of give you an update of the state of the schools financially, of where we stand at. And most of the time, the first few slides that I showed to you are mainly coming off of financial indicators through DUAB, which is the state site or state group that actually looks through financial indicators for the entire state and determines whether you're a district that is in jeopardy of going into the red, or are you a district that's staying in the black. So a couple of things we're going to start off with, and you talked, we heard Mr. McKibben earlier, first slide, talking about average daily membership. Keep in mind, this is always usually about a year behind, so it's kind of trying to get caught up and stuff. I mean, I'll give you some specifics as of where we are today. We were down a little bit last year as we expected. The blue, of course, is our fall in person, and then the green is our spring in person. As you may know or may not know, we have 2 counts each year that count for money. One's usually done around September the 15th, and the other one's done around February 15th. So we're gonna have our second count day, and I've already started bothering Jamie on a daily basis, saying, "Hey, where's my ADM? Where's my ADM at?" So that determines your money. And what ends up happening is we have about $6,700 per kid. So that kind of helps us to kind of gauge of what's going to be happening with that. So that ADM count is really very important to us as we kind of talk through it. As Mr. McKibben said, looks like around 1,400, maybe dropping a little bit, 1,386. I think as Jeff often said, our budget runs about 1,400. If we can keep right around there, then we're doing good. So, okay, next one. The next one talks a little bit about our fund balances. You can kind of see how things have changed. We went from education fund, or excuse me, from general fund over to education fund. We went from capital projects fund, transportation fund, bus replacement fund into an operations fund. So you can kind of follow these. We've had a lot of federal stimulus funds that have been coming in over the past, since COVID, since about 2019. So that's brought in a lot of money to our district. So education fund, as you can see from 2020 to 2021, you can't touch it. I put a dot on there. So it automatically went up a little bit. And then as well, rainy day fund is kind of dropped a little bit in that situation there. Operation fund has been fairly consistent around 400,000. This is your annual deficit and surplus. So what this looks at is this looks at all your revenue. This looks at all your expenditures. You have some revenue exceptions and you have some expenditure exceptions. And this was something new that they actually added to this slide this year. This is talking about our transfers. As you may or may not remember, we're allowed to transfer 15% from our education fund into our operations fund, or up to 15%. This can also include, like, for example, our school food fund, those kinds of things that can be those exceptions and stuff. This deficit surplus, as you can see, revenue was just a little bit less than our revenue or our expenditures last year. So therefore, they kind of projected that we were going to go into that deficit surplus. We gave some big pay raises last year. So we kind of knew that going into last year that we might eat into our cash balance a little bit with that. Did you go forward? Keep going. Fund balances as a percent of our expenditures. So as you can see, we've kind of leveled off. We ate into, like I said, that cash balance a little bit last year when we give our pay raises and stuff. So we dropped a little bit, down a little bit to about 25.9%. So we're still in pretty good shape. What we really like to try to watch, and like I think I've shared this before, is back in 2011 when Governor Daniels was kind of making all the sweeping changes across the state. There was a month that he did not send our basic grant to us. So what districts usually try to practice is to have at least three pays on hand in your cash balances. And we do have that. So we have that within our education fund, and we also have that within our rainy day fund. So as far as having that money set aside, we do have that. This is our revenue type. Like I said, we've had a lot of federal stimulus, also federal revenue. So this is our special education money. This is our Title I, Title II, Title III, just Title 550,000 almost, it seems like sometimes. But we have a lot of state and federal monies that come into us. We do not have an operating referendum, so there's nothing that comes in with that. And of course, your local tax revenue is dealing with your property taxes that only come into your property tax supported funds. That's your operations as well as your debt funds. So just some very specific information to us. Enrollment on September 16th was 1389.24. That 0.24, you might be wondering who that is. We have some homeschool kids that come in for about a class each day. I think they're participating in our physical education classes. So that's that number there. Currently, we're about 1379. I know Erin called me this morning and said, hey, I've got 3 kids that are wanting to transfer in. She said, do you want me to take them? I said, yes. So
One Steve's.
Yeah, one Steve's as well. So anyway, so we're hoping to try to close that gap a little bit.
So just kind of give you an idea, like I said, 6,700. So that's about $67,000 if we don't close that gap any. So definitely looking at that. These numbers here are not really, if you went back and pulled up this presentation from last year, when I went to the state, these had not changed any, which I kind of find that hard to believe. But free and reduced lunch was at 28.2%. Special education population is 18.2. Is that about right? Okay. English language learners is still about 0.1%. Last year, we completed certified evaluations on 100 staff members. We had 79% that were highly effective, 19% that were effective. And we have approximately 125 classified staff. So education fund balances. So where exactly are we landing at? So this year, we finished the year at $1,880,275. Our operations fund balance was at $1,086,638.89. Our rainy day fund balance was at $1,244,452.85. Really good, healthy funds. So I was very happy with where we landed at. This has not been updated. State has not updated this yet. So that kind of shows you where our per pupil expenditure was. Our assessed value, we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about our GO bond, our general obligation bond, definitely increased a lot this year, almost $95 million in our assessed valuation. Tax rates, 2023 was at 0.9691. Levy, definitely increased with our levy, $1,085,832, which was definitely a benefit to us, as we talked a little bit about with that general obligation bond. There you can see all your current debts that you have and the payoffs. Okay. Well, as we've talked, we're starting to look at this 2024 bond. The demographics has helped Michelle and I kind of hone in on what we're going to be proposing to you probably next month as far as looking at what we're going to do for that 2024 bond. General obligation bond, this was actually what the cost of the bond actually was. And as I said, we got about 1.4 is what we actually have for projects. Additional funding, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. ESSER 1 has ended. ESSER 2, I'm looking at Michelle, has ended, have it till September, and then ESSER 3, I think, goes out till the following September. But we are moving through those. A lot of those are, as you're going to see here in just a moment, if you want to go to the next slide, going to be paying for some of our people, and we're going to have to look at those. So this is some spreadsheets, and I know Amy loves spreadsheets. These are some spreadsheets that I've been looking at because I want to know, you've got those feelings of, well, maybe he's spending too much money and stuff, and those kinds of things. And so I wanted to look at, well, historically, where were we with our cash balance? So as you can see, historically, the blue line is 2022. We are actually finished higher this year than we finished in the past 4 years with our education fund. So we are good in that situation. Now, the concern that we have with this is we're getting ready to go into another negotiation. So as we look to that next September, when we start negotiating, we want to watch, are we going to start eating into that cash balance? There's some things that we have in favor for us. Number one is the state is flush with cash. So we're hearing from everybody that we're expecting about 6% increase in school funding. So that may help us as we look into next year. Go to the next one, Amy. So operations fund, once again, same situation. 2022 is our blue line. The only other time that we've been higher than where we are right now was in 2019 in the middle of the year of June. And at that time, I don't remember what it was, but I asked Carol, but we spent down fairly sizable, made a purchase at that time. You guys may remember that. But anyway, we're in good shape. But the other thing I want to point out with operations is that what we're looking at is we're getting ready to complete that special education classroom out there. And we have some money from special ed, but some of that's also being covered out of operations fund. So that's going to take a little bit of a hit this year as we go into that. So some challenges for the education fund. We talked about sustainability of ESSER funded projects or positions. Our elementary counselor has been paid out of ESSER. Our career and technical education coordinator, Jody Rankin's been paid out of ESSER, as well as our preschool teachers. We've been working with our preschool to try to support itself. as we go forward. But these two positions are going to, if we want to continue them, we'll have to come back into the education fund. So we kind of know going into negotiations that, hey, we like these positions, our teachers like these positions, so that needs to kind of come out of that pot before we start negotiations. Enrollment, you heard tonight, enrollment's going to be going forward a challenge for us, and so how do we continue to do that? We actually, Michelle and I kind of went back and forth on this one, and we actually changed this to cost of qualified candidates. We've been very blessed. I think all the principals in this room will say that we're hearing from people in Evansville who are great teachers who want to come out here and work for us, which is great. But because they have experience, it's a cost. We're having to pay money for those people to come out here and stuff. And so the cost of those qualified candidates are continuing to go up. We go to the job fairs, but those first year teachers are going very, very quickly. And if you are in a high priority or a high need area, such as mathematics, special education, science, those areas, almost those kids can write their own tickets. So salary schedule inconsistencies. We have a big kind of a mix up with about 6 to about 12-year employees in there. And so we want to try in the negotiations next year to really like to fix that group a little bit and try to get them back to where they're supposed to be. A lot of them might be 2, 3, or maybe more years than that behind where they should be. Of course, rising cost of benefits. We were very blessed this year to not have an insurance increase, which helped us to put more money into salaries and stuff. But that's a wild card. We just don't know what that's going to do. So that's constantly, and even though our the actual cost of the insurance didn't go up, the administrative costs went up. So there's still some costs connected to that. And then of course the ongoing transfers to the operational fund at that 15%. Electrical costs are going up. Gas costs are going up. Gasoline costs are going up. Everything is going up. So that's eating into those different buckets as we talk about it. Opportunities. Michelle and I are constantly looking for grant opportunities and saying, what money is available out there. We just applied for a new Lilly grant that's going to allow us to maybe get some money to support our elementary counselor and stuff, or social workers and things. So constantly out there knocking on those doors, seeing where can we find more money to be able to do this. Like I said, state revenue budget, as we go into a budget year, you guys are very vocal with our state legislators. We're going to have a luncheon with them probably coming up here in a few weeks to talk to them about this proposed 6% increase. Keep in mind, charter schools are part of that, the voucher system. We're hearing that they want to put more money towards voucher, more money towards charter, which would mean less money for us. Operations fund, age of facilities. Like we said, this year, the special education classroom. A lot of this stuff, what I'm running into is, like even on the special education classroom, we're getting into stuff and like the electrical panel is 1970s, needs to be updated. The controls is ancient, they need to be updated. So we're trying to, as we come through and as we find these stuff, we're trying to fix them right. So they're done, they're off the list, okay? But because of that, it's adding cost, everything costs. So it's like, how can we get this stuff done? But it makes sense to get them done while we're working on this stuff. The general obligation bond is definitely going to be an opportunity for us, and we are trying to squeeze that, manipulate it as much as we possibly can, looking for those additional savings and trying to squeeze it as much as we can. Some grant opportunities. The Department of Energy, underneath President Biden, just released grants to school corporations across the United States to apply. This can be upwards of 50 to 60% of a rebate that comes back to the school corporation if you put in like wind or solar or those kinds of things. So we're definitely going to begin the process of investigating solar for our schools because it could definitely help us as we go forward in reducing the cost of our electricity to our constituents. Okay, we have our principals here tonight to kind of give you a quick update as well as where we are on our strategic plan. Okay, who's got go one?
I do.
Okay.
All right, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on this slide only because it's kind of an overview of the progress that we're going to talk about. So last year, I think, was it around this time last year whenever we presented to? Yeah. So last year, we presented on, we were right here. We had our baseline success measures. That's where we were. This year, we're in year one. So I will give you I'll give you an update. I'm sorry, I ruined the whole thing for everybody. I'll give you an update anyway on what we've done so far this year. So the first goal that we have is we will create a dynamic and innovative educational experience by a whole student approach. So this encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses the kids' academic opportunities. It encompasses their social emotional opportunities and support as well. So thank you. Nope. Thanks. Okay. So basically, curriculum mapping is our first. It was the first box on that grid. Curriculum mapping. The junior high and last year everyone mapped English language arts. That's what we did during our our e-learning days. This year, so far, the junior high and the high school have mapped math curriculum. And second semester, starting on Wednesday, the elementary schools are going to be mapping our math curriculum as well. I have a group of teachers, one from each building, and we're meeting monthly and talking about building a culture of rigor throughout the district. So basically taking our academic opportunities and just increasing the rigor across the board. So we're talking a lot about revisiting depth of knowledge with every single content area, not just English and math, which is sometimes easier to focus on. But we've built folders to share out with the district eventually once we've got them finished with some resources in them just for all of our staff members in all content areas to be able to go to use just to build the rigor within their classrooms. Social emotional learning for staff and students. So we had some professional development through encompassing education at the beginning of the school year. We had that to begin with. We did a survey and we got some feedback that wasn't stellar from the staff. So we've kind of taken a step back and are looking at maybe introducing that to them in a different way. The presentation wasn't amazing. It wasn't great. And it kind of put a bad taste in some people's mouths. So we're just kind of taking a step back to make sure that we approach that in the right way. But also encompassing education, providing a restorative practices survey as well. Also our K-2 college career readiness initiatives. The high school is continuing to work with NICSs to develop the college and career program through manufacturing. They are also starting the process to apply for early college credentials. That has started. It is far from being complete, but it has started. And our high ability teachers have been provided with some PD already this year, and there's continuous PD happening to assist them in revisiting and revising the curriculum. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions for goal 1?
You mentioned evaluations came back that the top one there, the staff didn't like that as much.
Yeah.
What was their feelings on the curriculum mapping that we did?
Well, Michelle has,
We complete a survey after every e-learning day to get feedback from the teachers on, because they're all participating in some different things. And so we've gotten really positive feedback on the curriculum mapping.
Can we see those?
You actually are shared with those already, but I can send it
Shared where?
in your Google Drive. But I will share it directly, so you'll have it in your
Jake or
inbox.
Brian or somebody to show me how to find it.
I'll send it directly, so you have it in your inbox as an email. But those are in there, and there's really, really positive feedback on the days in general, that they're getting a lot of learning time with their peers, and they feel like they're able to really dig into the curriculum and have that entire day to do that. And then the maps themselves, now we're in the implementation phase of the English language arts this year, since they completed those last year. And if you guys want to share a little bit about the feedback you've gotten from your teachers on as they're implementing it, what are they saying?
Yeah, it is, I don't have one here to show you, but we have a spreadsheet that, and all of the schools have this spreadsheet of data that as a skill that the teachers develop through this whole process, as the skill is presented to the kids, then they assess it after a scheduled period of time. And then this spreadsheet, they're able to record which kids got it or which kids mastered it. So Aaron and I can look at this spreadsheet and see where the holes are to see what instruction needs to happen.
And our kids are being assessed the same way
Right.
at each grade level.
Yeah.
So it gives some consistency through the district that we didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
Our teachers had time to meet, to plan those assessments and decide when to give them. So if students go from her to me or me to her,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty seamless. They're on the same page. And I would say that if there has been feedback that has been like, we need support with this or this needs to change, it's been very flexible. So everything has kind of been guided through those surveys that have gone out.
We have tried to shift and address anything that's come up. All the administrators get access to them as well. We kind of talk about them at the admin meeting following, just to say, hey, were you hearing anything more than what was in the survey? But then we've also gotten some good feedback that now, at the beginning, anytime you try something new, it's hard work, it's frustrating. This has challenged our teachers to go through a process of struggle as well. That productive struggle that we're asking students to do. And that's hard. It's hard work on top of also teaching,
Yeah,
so
that's my concern with the whole program. We're asking our teachers to do more and more and more. And the good teachers probably are benefiting from some of this stuff. The teachers that are getting by are hanging on to the good teachers and getting things, and the others aren't going to do anything anyway. I still have questions about spending 8-10 days a year out of the classroom when we could be teaching kids. I don't like it. I'm sorry.
Well, this helps us to teach more effectively and smarter than what we did in the past. Because in the past, you were just teaching straight through the book. This helps us to look at what the state is saying the most important is, and then look at our curriculum, and the teachers then say, okay, well, that might be 3 or 4 chapters into the textbook, and this is going to be something that the state's going to hit a lot on this test. Okay, we need to move this forward and spend more time on it. And as well, it's kind of like what Toyota does up there. If they have a car that's broke, they take it off the line and they address it. And we're doing the same thing with these curriculum maps, is that when the kids don't get that skill, we're then going in and putting in some extra help and some extra attention to make sure that they get it, and then they can move on and build upon that.
Are we missing some with other kids then when we do that? Are we missing some other skills?
It's a much, I understand what you're saying, Larry, but it's a much thorough and more detail-oriented program than we've ever done before. And it's really what the state's requiring us to do.
Required? We're required to do curriculum mapping?
It is part of,
A lot of schools aren't doing it.
That they are nowadays. If they're wanting to be best
Gibson
practice,
Southern's
they
not
are.
doing it.
Well, Gibson Southern's not doing best practice.
I would
I'm
say
not gonna
that
compare.
even
I
though
don't think that's a state requirement.
So even the feedback that we got on the productive struggle on the beginning, now that we're on the implementation side, we're getting a lot of, we see this benefit. We see where our teaching peers, we have the ability to go to them and get that feedback and work together and work with our students in different groups. We're seeing lots of positive feedback.
Are we getting feedback from teachers that think this is a waste of time and they don't have enough time to get this done and everything else that they've got to do? No one has said that.
I have not
No
gotten
one
that on the
has said that.
surveys, no.
We're not having any surveys turned in that way.
Well, I've heard that from several.
Then they're lying on the surveys, I guess.
I'm not taking
Or
Survey's
they-
not mandatory. No, it's not mandatory that they take it.
And once we get through this process, we'll back off on the PD days. And keep in mind, this-
And another suggestion I had, if we're gonna do the PD days, do them on Friday. You do them on Thursday, kids are out on Thursday, you come back, go to school one day, and it's like wasted time. Especially on high school level, they're gonna be thinking, oh, well, we get out, what was I doing yesterday? I was out fishing yesterday, or I done this, or I done that, and tomorrow I'm gonna get here. You don't have those kids in, I just, and I know it was something that I didn't think, I didn't like and everything when I was teaching. And I saw a lot of good teachers chased out because of more and more things to do. A good teacher is going to get the stuff done. You say the curriculum, the state curriculum, do the textbooks not take that into consideration when they write them?
textbooks are written for the state of
They're not written
California
for
and the state of
Indiana.
Florida.
Really?
They don't. So I mean, you have to, there's holes in the curriculum, in the textbooks. You
Why,
gotta
why,
make sure.
why would Indiana's be a whole lot different than Florida or California?
Just
Because they're not Common Core.
We don't use Common Core
Number of
standards.
students. Varies.
Another question, and maybe this is petty, but why are we feeding teachers every time? This is costing us a tremendous amount of I don't know, capital from groups and organizations that we ask help for athletics, for prom, for other types of things. And now all of a sudden we're hitting groups up again. We're asking them for a couple $1,000s to feed teachers. I think we should have the teachers. Let's go to Red Wagon and say, we're going to have a special for Red Wagon this week. Let's send the teachers out there, or they can eat on their own. And at Red Wagon, they get a discount, and Red Wagon gets customers. We can do the same thing with Froggies. We can do the same thing with Red Geranium would do. We can do the same thing with numerous groups in the, but I think us buying the teachers their lunches, I'm sorry, maybe that's petty, but I think we're losing an awful lot of capital with organizations and businesses by asking them for more and more and more.
Larry, I
And
agree.
I'll be quiet.
Larry, I agree with a lot of what you said. But I don't like e-learning days for a lot of reasons, just as a parent and where they're situated in the work week, and it's not always consistent. It's difficult for a lot of parents, and a lot of parents have voiced that to me. I've had teachers complain to me that they don't like some things, but they like some things too. So I don't know all the ins and outs of what they're learning on those days, and
I've heard a lot from parents too, because it's tough on them to schedule what to do with their kids and different things like
And
that. It's better when they know when they're gonna happen like that, but it's still not easy.
And the same with buying the teachers' lunches. I feel like some of the things we have on the budget, like playground equipment, you could probably get businesses to say, I'll donate $2,000 for that if we were more proactive.
Or to help put a
about
softball scoreboard up, or to do different things like that, and instead we're buying. I don't see it. I really don't.
I think it's also just a nice thank you to our teachers sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah.
they do
but-
do a lot of work.
Yeah.
I don't mind buying them lunch once in a
Yeah, and,
while.
and I appreciate that too. They do. But I think, in my opinion, they ought to be in the classroom, go down to the cafeteria every day and not be doing any learning.
They need, I mean, that's not a debate to have for now, but I feel like our teachers need those days.
And you're saying our teachers aren't very strong,
I did not say that, but I think they have to keep up their education just as well.
though. There are ways to do that without taking our kids out of class 9-10 days a year.
But then you pay them additionally to make it like onto their contract or something. I mean, we have to pay them one way or another. But
I-
I'm not saying good or bad. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just, there's other.
This is my opinion, and if I don't give my opinion, and if
That's what
it's,
you're here for.
if it's 4-1 against me, that's fine. I'm okay, but if I don't say what I think,
I think
I'm
there's a
not
lot
doing
of,
what I was elected for.
there's a lot of parents that think on the lines that the e-learning day should be focused more in the summertime when those teachers have off, and I don't know, I'm sure there's negatives and
That's not in their
positives,
contract, yeah.
right? So it's just really, there's pluses and minuses all around.
Goal two.
Well, ready for goal two?
All
right. Pretty real quick, just a recap of what we talked about, 6 months ago or whatever that was. We will inspire a culture of investing in our professionals to impact learning and innovation. 3 areas that we've really dove into: build leadership capacity across the district, develop culture of learning, and then the third one, attract and retain high quality candidates. With that, looking at the assess and develop a possible teacher cadet program that would go in, we've talked about with a possible grant that might create a pathway for our students to go into the teaching program. Also, Dr. Galvin sent me today to USI talking about student teachers. That's a great avenue. Get those student teachers out here. That's one way we can get those first year teachers, or those young kids out here to be, and that would definitely offset the capital. One of the things we went to, if you jump over to that one, current progress. We went to at the principals conference. Crown Point had a presentation that we really liked, and we brought it back to our committee. And what that was, they called it Crown Point University. We right now we're working on the name, but Connected Pursuits University, a program based on the PD model currently being implemented at Crown Point. It's easily altered to meet the needs of our corporation, the entire district, basically creating that professional learning groups, and we will develop that with both the principal as well as our lead teachers to run these small groups. I don't know if you've ever heard of the flipped classroom. It's kind of that concept where you will give the out to the entire corporation staff, whether it's a short clip, a video clip, whether it's an article, they read that, then they will have a half hour on our PD time where we would discuss how that will be implemented in the classroom, and basically create it that way where we're not spending the time in the day researching it, learning it. We've already read it. We're bringing that information, and we discuss it as a true learning community. So we really like that concept. It's tough with the PD this year, as Larry, as you were talking about. When we're doing this curriculum mapping, we got this group over here doing something, and it's a little more difficult to run it this year. But in the future, if we could have like a faculty meeting for an hour, go to our learning environments for that half hour, 45 minutes, maybe setting up that structure in the future where we can have more of I guess that structure where, and we did 2 years ago where we had choices with technology that the teachers could go to. So maybe if we have our CPR class where a lot of our teachers have to get certified, they could go to that. Or if some of them would like school safety, when we bring in Cliff Simpson, talk about what's going on in the community as far as drugs, as far as school safety, as far as things that the parents need to be looking for. So basically more of a choice in the afternoons for the teachers. But anyway, that is kind of the system that our committee right now is looking at. We did take a little bit of a change. The elementaries had SEL, social learning, emotional learning, first semester. Didn't go the way we'd hoped, so we did change that. For the junior high school, we're kind of looking at a different direction and trying to get some other PD dealing with the social emotional learning. Our teachers is coming from our teachers. We do feel it's very important coming out of COVID, but where to implement that and what that's to look like, we're still trying to come up with and best practice on how to get that information to our teachers. So, but anyway, groups would be led, like I said, principals as well as lead teachers. Groups would meet about 30 minutes. All groups would cover the same topic. So even though each building is kind of doing their own thing for part of the day, but we would also have that uniformity across the corporation. We can be looking at those same topics, and we can talk about that, something Dr. Galvin could talk about later on and seeing how that's worked out and, down the road. So really that's quick and to the point, but that's goal 2. Any questions?
I think there's lots of good programs out there that people could really benefit from. And I'd love to see morning sessions that we bring the whole group in to learn CPR. CPR might not be it, but to learn new things in technology and different things like that. Now, when we're teaching that, curriculum mappers don't get that stuff. I'm sorry, I'm going to be quiet. I'm not going to say anything more of the football games going on.
Errol, I'll tell you, a year and a half ago, or basically a year ago, I know because I had some of my teachers having those very complaints. I went back to those teachers, and actually it was Friday. And one of my biggest complainers about having to go back to curriculum mapping, well, it was actually really beneficial. And, like I said, I don't want to negate what you're saying because there is a concern of, is it beneficial? My teachers, I can honestly say, see the benefit in that. But it is tough to keep these people busy, and then what are you doing with the rest of the staff? And that's really what we want to work on.
And in all honesty, I don't see how your curriculum mapping right now. I've seen some little bits of it and stuff, but I know how we done it, which was.
I know exactly what you're saying because when I did curriculum mapping when I was teaching.
And maybe they're a lot better right now. And I keep telling myself I'm going to come in and sit in on a curriculum mapping session, and then my alarm won't go off at morning.
Well, the curriculum mapping we did, you're right. We had two solid teachers working on it. It was frustrating because then these guys that weren't really working that hard kind of went on the coattails, just what you were saying. But I can honestly say I really believe, especially the size of our corporation. When I was doing it in the EVSC, there was 15, 20 teachers I was doing it. When you have 2 or 3, it really shows if somebody's not doing their job. And that is actually our job also to make sure, by golly, you will be doing what you're supposed to.
I think if it's making us uniform across the board, 4th grade at North Elementary, 4th grade at South Terrace, we're all teaching the same thing in each classroom and everything. I think that's great, but I think that could be done easier ways too without spending as much time outside of class. But yes, and I'll shut up. There's a football game on, so I won't talk anymore, Coach.
The other thing I also want to point out too is some of the issue we ran into as well was that we used to just do the afternoon releases, and the Department of Education came out and said that we can no longer do that. So that's kind of what forced us to move to the full days. We would like to do more like early releases and stuff. I think that would fit better into the schedule, but the state said that does not meet the required instructional time.
That is something our teachers brought to me and said, hey, why did we go away from this? And I did explain that very thing. We're just not allowed to. Our counts as a whole day.
Yeah.
Against us.
It has to be weather related.
Minutes is the only reason we can do this.
Yes, correct. And that's
We have the same instructional minutes as we done in a half day or 3 hours of that, wouldn't we? I mean, you're not using as many instructional minutes then.
I don't know what you're saying. But anyway,
If you have in August, we have a 3-hour session and the kids go to school the rest of the day. Or in August, we have an 8-hour session and nobody goes to school that day. The 3-hour session isn't using more minutes. I mean,
that's good logic, but the state won't let us do it. And you're right.
And the
but
state will
The
let
state
us-
will count that as a whole day
And the
against us.
state will let us get rid of some of the 180 instructional days.
Because you're providing e-learning activities on those days.
It is a glitch.
Well, the good news is we're not talking about professional development or
Okay.
curriculum mapping in our goals. So
Lucky you.
on to something else.
We might survive.
Yes. Do
Yeah.
you want me to start singing?
You could start seeing. Go ahead.
So Sean and I, our goal is that we will embrace community involvement for engagement in district successes. And basically, we can break it down into two parts. The first part is that we wanted to increase student opportunities in our community. And the second part that we want to promote our district to our community and surrounding communities. Take it away for you start.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the marketing side, that really is just about, just putting ourselves out there, making sure that people understand what we do, how we do it, how well we do it, and be able to communicate that maybe a little bit more formally than word of mouth. I feel like that there are some really good momentum going on right now on the marketing side. On the community, engagement side, you can see that the result of our survey, where we surveyed the staff to find out exactly, who are we working with. And whenever you take a look at that list, it's a lot more robust than maybe I even thought that it may be. There's a variety of the ways that we've engaged with these various partners, but we do have a nice long list of those, and we're really engaged with a lot of folks in the community doing a lot of really great things, either with us doing things with them, them doing things for us, them supporting us in various ways. So those are all really good things that are going on as far as our community partners. The other thing, that we wanted to do with community engagement is start doing more things to bring value to the table for the community, rather than always asking the community for value for us. We really feel like this needs to be a partnership, and we need to give back as much as we ask for. I think it's out of balance still. I mean, we've got a really supportive community, and we can't do what we do without them. But we are trying to do more and more things to try to bring community to our campuses, to our schools, and try to give them a really good experience. Back to marketing, you can go ahead and go with what we've done marketing wise. A lot of that's been over here.
Yeah. Year one, the district hired Casey Velker, and he has been in the process. You've seen some of the videos that he's done, and he's currently working on some more. I think that was a good move as far as professionally communicating our district to others. We also do a District Employee of the Month program. Another video went out today for that. We have tried to brand ourselves consistently throughout the district, start using similar colors, no more 7 shades of red, which they're still there, but we're trying to trend. It takes money and time to get that taken out. So that is an initiative that we've taken. We're standardizing logos. We have a new district Facebook page, and we've also enhanced and changed how our website is maintained and updated. So that's been done.
Taking a look at the various things that we've done community engagement wise, and a lot of the things that you see on the screen there have been things that we've been doing for a while, but you're going to see a lot of first and second annuals up there. And that means that we are doing new things and trying to pay attention to ways to reach out and engage with the community in ways that they can really benefit and enjoy being around our schools and being around our district. I know that they enhanced the grandparents' night at South Terrace North Elementary, added food and bingo and improved advertising for that. And that was a huge hit. I know 2 years ago when we did the fall homecoming parade, we thought we were probably crazy to try to embark on something like that and run a parade around our track before a football game, which was before a homecoming ceremony, we also were playing a game that night. It felt like we were doing everything but the game. But so we did that again this year, and I really feel like everybody was really looking forward to it. People picked up right where they left off and really were excited about it. It injected a lot of excitement into the community. It got the whole district involved in the community with homecoming. I mean, you heard that third graders were excited about homecoming because they knew what it was. They knew they were going to have a role. They knew that they could come out and be a part of that.
Once again, I can read the slides to you. You can see a lot of the things that are going out. I know we did just something as simple as the sophomore class coming to me with an idea for a fundraiser, and they said, hey, we're going to do this parents night out. We're going to bring kids in. Yeah, I said, who's going to watch them? And how are you going to do that? And how are we going to supervise this properly? But what a great opportunity to give back in a way to the community. Even though they did support us financially with that, they got a lot of value out of that as well. So again, we did the Christmas events that we did, in the foyer of the high school with the toy drive and Santa, a couple of different nights. We had a Christmas tree representing each school along with the district. Took some veiled shots at me, which was great. Just ornament things. We did have a college counseling night where North Posey Academics kind of paid a consultant to come in, a small amount. She was very nice and very generous to come in and talk to some folks about just college counseling questions, that they may not otherwise be able to get. And then we always have our Veterans Day programs. I know you get your Candy Cane Market and the Family Fun Night that'll be this spring. So just thinking about when you get a chance to write down the things that we do, there really are a lot of things that are going on and a lot of good things. There are a lot of new things, and we continue to enhance the existing things. So we're really happy with the direction that this is going.
We met in December with our committee. The committee is made up of people from different job titles. Kim Wassmer, the junior high secretary. Mainly people are on the committee that do have ties to the community directly, but we met in December and have some ideas going forward to enhance our goals for community engagement going forward. Stay tuned for those.
So I got the last go, number 4, and we covered a lot of this evening, but just mine was to kind of look at our budget, operations, and enrollment. Of course, we've talked a little bit about enrollment already this evening. Increased cash balance of the education fund by 2%. We actually increased it this year by 13.6%. We went from 1,624,000 at the beginning of 2022. At the end of 22, January 1st, 2023, we're at 1,880,000. Like I said, we are projecting possibly to build on that cash balance for next year, but we're going into the negotiations here. Operations fund, once again, a goal to increase by 2%. We increased actually by 54% this year. We went from 498,000 at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, we finished at 1,086,638. One of the other goals we were talking about, of course, was looking at some of the ways that we make money, and we get money in the 30-day reports. Very important to that. I want to give kudos to Mr. Fisher and his team out there. We were supposed to establish a baseline for 22, 23, but actually I think this increased by about 25,000 from last year to this year. So this is that work-based learning. This is our CTE classes. We're doing a great job on increasing that. And of course, we're seriously trying to look at that prize stone of getting to the capstones. And the capstones is really where you begin to bring in that additional money and stuff. And that's really working with Nick's Manufacturing to try to do that. A couple other areas within this was just looking at the grants. How do the grants align with strategic plans? Those are some things that we're looking at as we move forward and trying to align some of the budget with that. So that's a little bit about superintendent's state of the schools. I feel like we're in good shape. We're healthy. A lot of great things are happening, like Sean said. I think when you put down the list and you look at it, I think we got a great school corporation. We're making it better each and every day.
Hey, Sean, what is district and school levels to Mambo School? What's a Mambo School?
Mambo Schools is the company that hosts our website.
Oh, okay.
And they've actually hosted our website before we made the recent change, but we found that the website was cumbersome and hard to maintain. So we had our technology director, Jake Regan, reach out to them to see if they had a different platform. We actually learned that they did, and they did a really nice job helping us out to upgrade that. And there was a cost to that, but it was not super prohibitive. It was well worth it to be able to get us to what we have right now.
You said some teachers have to take CPR. Who has to take it?
To renew their license.
Oh, so you expect everybody to have it? Okay.
Everybody eventually is going to need the
Okay.
CPR class. That's the reason we offer it every year.
We have AEDs in every school, right?
Correct.
Well, one other item to add to the community outreach, I didn't see it, it may have been up there, but is the CTE class working with Habitat in Poseyville. I think that's an excellent opportunity for them to give back to the community.
Absolutely. You know, I think Habitat was on for one of our partners, but I don't think I detailed it, with the activities. Just anytime we can get, opportunities to do that, and those are the types of things we want to do, it's a double benefit. I mean, we're reaching, we're providing, assistance to the community and we're getting benefit from it.
And we're impressing our community, our workers that are down there. I had a guy talk to me yesterday, how impressed he was that they were able to work out. That we had kids actually going down there and working and getting credit for it.
Yeah, it matters for our community to see our kids doing the right thing. And those are good opportunities for that.
Okay, personnel, Ms. Walton.
Yeah, next thing on the list, it's not really an additional personnel. Because we have some shifts that we've done in the transportation department, right before I came and then after, I just wanted to make sure that with, transparency, that you knew kind of where we were headed. So you saw earlier in the consent agenda that we have, brought to you Laura English to replace Sonia as she's leaving to take on a new business adventure for her family. With that, Laura's a current driver already, a full-time driver, and we really don't want to lose any additional drivers. So we try to reimagine and actually kind of go back to some of what we've done in the past. So this isn't a new thing. We've done this before, to have someone that is familiar with all of our routes help us with routing. So the majority of any sort of routing issues, like we get a new student and that needs to be put on a bus, that still lies with the transportation secretary. This is for like if we need to, what happened this year, we needed to consolidate some routes and we needed to do it quickly. I needed someone that understood all the routes and could help us do that with some efficiency. And so that's what this is saying, is that anytime we would do additional work beyond just what we have him do with our sub, is that he would be paid at this rate, at that $18.99 now.
And currently he's a full-time sub driver.
He is a full-time sub driver. So he's a full-time driver. He's on a route almost every single day on a different route.
But he works every day then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's
Wherever he's needed.
Yeah.
And if he's not needed, then you can use him to do some of this.
Yeah, if he's not on a route, usually he's riding a route he doesn't know very well, or he's, working with some of the other needs that we have. It's rare that he's not driving,
And how does that rate compare to other positions and stuff too?
That is the same. We use the rate with our transportation secretary because this is one of the pieces of the job we sort of peeled off of transportation secretary. Because if you notice when I put in for Mrs. Englert, we reduced the time as well. So we saw over the last year with Sonia in that role, Sonia was never supposed to be a full-time driver. She was supposed to work a different schedule, and it just never really worked that way. She was having to sub almost every single day. We were trying to get creative with, okay, you blocked those times off to sub. Now you're working through your lunch to get your full day in, and it was just really complicated. And so we said, if this is the way it's going to be, let's just back off of that, make this job a little smaller, the transportation secretary a little less hours. It fits within the two routes, the morning and the afternoon route. But that extra work on routing is just going to have to be a little bit piecemeal, but hourly. And then that helps us. We only spend for it when we need it.
And he's probably one of the better ones because he runs multiple routes.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the hourly rate for Mr. Lamar to assist the transportation secretary.
I make a motion, we pay that $18.99 per hour to Mr. Lamar to help with transportation.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Colley, seconded by Ms. Bowers. Do we have any discussion on the item? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Next up this evening, you've got there the list of professional leave for the district. So we bring that forward for your consideration this evening.
All right, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for the professional leave request as listed.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Swill, second by Mr. Oakley to approve professional leave requests. Any discussion on the item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0.
Next up, just good news report. This past year or past month was Christmas, so we really didn't have a whole lot going on. But we did, I think most of you probably saw this Facebook post. Our JV basketball team went up to North Davies, and they provided a meal for us up there, and they sent us a very nice letter complimenting our students on how polite they were. And so, it's always a good thing when our kids can go away and we get this, these responses back and stuff, that our kids know how to behave, they have morals, they have values, they have,
It was a really good letter. I mean, they went into depth and stuff and everything.
And
And
it was written by a tenured family and consumer science teacher. So she doesn't, I was told, she's been around the block and knows students. She doesn't hand those out all the time. So it wasn't just from anybody. It was from an educator who'd been in the system for a long time and felt like saying that about some students.
It made me proud, just the fact, and my wife proud, just the fact, because our grandson was a coach up there during that time. So.
So very good. And if you do not know, Rusty is back. He got released. So we are glad to have him back. Glad he's doing well as well with the basketball team. And so very.
And Jake and Damon done just absolutely a tremendous job in his. I signed up wanting to just, so if they needed help, so they asked questions, they didn't need me. They were good.
Yeah, they did a good job. So that's all we have for tonight, Mr. President.
Anything else for the good of the cause?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Take that motion in a second.
Yeah.
It's a first good news.
We are adjourned.
This might be the longest ever.
I'm surprised they
Yeah,
haven't like.